Modern day, a rural neighborhood. The cloudy sky and gentle rain fall over the empty streets of mostly similar houses. Cars, some parked on the street, some under driveways. Around this time, these streets would have children at play, maybe some adults sitting and chatting on the porch or cooking barbecue in the yards. But today the weather would not allow for that. But even past the age of discovery and adventure, a time where science has few questions left to answer, things can still happen. The police car turns onto the street, with the houses lined down both sides. A shirtless man stands in the middle, still as the rain falls around him. In his hands is a sword, a short sword of some European design. Well made, but otherwise unremarkable. Still very odd, and out of place. One of the families must have spotted him and called the police to keep an eye on him. He was a mysterious person, not seen around these parts before. The officer pulls to the side of the road and parks. As the rain begins to get heavier, he sits in his patrol car wondering if he's going to have to get his uniform wet. Or will this person just leave of his own will? He hasn't done anything illegal, and isn't causing a fuss, so the officer is in no rush to get into the room. The man is well-toned, but not overly muscular. He's wearing blue pants that don't seem dirty, so he probably isn't homeless. He has long white hair, but it's tied neatly into a ponytail. Is he from this neighborhood? Is he lost? Drug addict, perhaps? His breathing is calm, if a bit exaggerated. The police officer looks out the side of his window and notices a little boy watching from his house. The officer smiles and waves at him, and the boy does so in return, happy to be noticed. Thunder rumbles in the distance, but suddenly, lightning jets from a nearby cloud, and the man strikes every bit as fast as nature. The bolt lingers on the edge of his sword. The man stands his ground, and with a bit more effort sends the lightning back into the cloud that it came from. The dark cloud lights up several times before returning to normal. The edge of the sword was red from where the lightning made contact, and the man's breathing is a bit heavier now. No longer does he hold the sword at his side. It's raised and at the ready. Japanese kendo stance? An unusual form for a sword of Western design, but it would be effective all the same. The little boy and the police officer share a shocked look as more people begin to watch from inside their homes. Once again, there's more thunder. The man's arms hold the blade above him for what feels like hours, but he never trembles. And then finally, he slowly begins to bring the blade down, speeding up as he goes. Crackling, sizzling electricity once again reaches out to meet with the sword. Visible electricity stayed even longer than before, like a phantom arm wrestling for control. The man struggled to hold the blade and strained to continue his downward cut. Now the police officer was hanging from his car, no longer concerned with something so insignificant as rain. People moved to be standing in their yards as they watched this unnatural duel with nature. Finally, after a few moments of struggling, the man finished his elongated swing. A flash of lightning was flung into the asphalt, and the air sizzled with static and boomed with thunder. The blade of the sword was now an angry red, but something wasn't right. The rain was in a full downpour, but there was no sizzle from the water hitting it. In fact, the sword was ringing. like wind chimes hanging in a gentle breeze. The man was on his knees, breathing heavily, almost gasping for air. His chest labored to expand and contract, but he held on to the now red sword, doing his best to keep it from touching the ground or himself. The weight and the struggle was clearly taking its toll, but he remained focused solely on the sky. The neighborhood remained silent. He wouldn't have too long to catch his breath, however. Once again, like metal to a magnet, the lightning strikes the flat of his sword. It's clear that there's force behind it because the man uses all his strength to keep the already hot sword from searing his skin. The people gasp and hold their breath. As he struggles, the red sword begins to change color. In the center of the blade, light begins to spread outwards and envelop the sword. This long, uninterrupted thunder bellows from the sky, like a god groaning in exertion. 3 more bolts of lightning come down to meet with the swordsman's weapon. Now he too groans in anguish as he's leaning forward with all his might, and the muscles in his back are tense like industrial steel coils wound tight. The ringing from before is much louder. The people watching, now soaked from the heavy rainfall, are covering their ears. The glass on car and house windows alike shake, and everyone around them is too mesmerized to notice that air is now defying gravity. The sword is a blinding white, and the pitch of the noise is rising and falling as the man struggles to remain control over his weapon. Great sparks fly as the sword changes color one more time. From the very tip of the blade, a blue hue slowly falls. The man is yelling in defiant agony. Still, the color spreads further down. Finally, when all of the blade is blue, he uses the last of his strength to turn his body sideways. The blade gets knocked free of his hands, and 4 beams of lightning strike the road, flinging sparks and bits of asphalt into the air, before falling to the ground and leaving fresh, natural potholes. The man falls to the ground, and the sword lay near him, still glowing that blue hue. The rumbling in the sky stops, but the blade continues to sing. One more time, the sky lashes out. A final, slow-moving streak of light goes to make contact with the man as he lays on the ground. But before it does, 2 more shirtless men appear, wearing the same blue pants. They sprint from the crowd, gathered at the side. One grabs the sword, being careful to only touch the handle, and the other picks up the fallen warrior. Lightning hits the ground where his body once lay. Thankfully, it misses him completely. The original wielder is left gently lying down in the grass of a yard, and the 2 newcomers rush the sword under a driveway. There, 2 more men await near an anvil, and quickly they all begin to hammer the blue sword. With every strike, the constant tune from the sword changes. It sounds like a choir, holding a note, but the strikes are refining it. The swordsman does his best to try and stand, but he can't yet summon the strength, so he tries his best to crawl a few feet towards the blacksmiths. Finally, he manages to pick himself up. He grabs a hammer nearby and joins in, and they all take turns striking the blue sword. The people can't make sense of what they're watching. The sword's color remains blue, but its shape has changed and reverted and changed again. It started as a short sword, and a long sword, a great sword, a katana, a bastard sword, a dagger, an odachi, a zweihander. Each form of the sword had its own song, but it always went back to the short sword that it started as. Eventually, the men stopped their work and without a word they all filed inside of the house, taking the sword along with them.